I was not a great flyer. I've gotten better, but there were times I needed one, maybe three glasses of wine before I can get on the plane. Even then, every time the plane pushed back from the gate, some part of my brain would be screaming. The smell of jet fuel, the takeoff, the landing, every bump of turbulence in between. Yeah, I'd sit there and manage, but there were times my hands were clenched so tight on the armrest they would actually hurt. And then a few hours later, I'd get off the plane, I'd walk to my car in the parking garage, and I'd drive home. Not a second thought. Clearly, you know that the drive is the dangerous part. It's not even close. I know that too, but my fear wasn't thinking about statistics in that moment. Fear has its own ideas and decides what deserves attention, and the actual risk didn't even make it on the list. Thankfully, I got better about flying. I think I really dove into flight sims, and that helped me understand what was happening during flight. I think all that virtual flying helped desensitize me, and eventually it actually turned into a real love of flying. But plenty of people never get over that fear. I don't think it's all that unusual. And even now, from time to time, when it feels like that bank angle's getting a little bit too steep or the throttle gets pulled back suddenly, I still get that old nervous chill. It's just human. Very often, we're not afraid of the stuff that's most likely to hurt us. We're afraid of what's new and what's vivid, and definitely what we're not in control of. Familiar dangers kind of fade into the background no matter how big they are, and the strange ones set off every alarm no matter how small. We walk through the woods and don't see the poisonous snakes or the other stuff that might actually kill us, but when a rabbit suddenly runs out in front of us, we jump. It's only natural. It's kind of like that everywhere. It gets stranger and a bit darker. When I was young, I was afraid of nuclear war. Not in some abstract way. I mean, I was literally afraid that we were all going to be vaporized. Nobody around me could promise me that we wouldn't be, because it was a very real possibility, and that threat was real. I hate to say it, but it still is. The weapons never went anywhere. Years later, many years later, I watched my own son go through his version of it. The same kind of fear, the same anxiety. A whole generation later, fearful for danger that has been sitting there the entire time. And here's the strange part. Most days, I don't think about it at all. Neither do you. It's the largest existential threat we've ever created. It's still fully loaded, still pointed, still capable of ending everything. It's arguably more dangerous than it's ever been, with greater proliferation on one side of the equation and aging infrastructure on the other. I mean, if there was ever a thing you didn't want being held together by bubblegum and piano wire, it would probably be the world's nuclear arsenal. But amazingly, we file it away somewhere in the back of our head where it just can't keep us from getting through our day. And that's not stupid, that's survival. You can't function with an alarm blaring at full volume over and over forever. So the mind takes those enormous, real, permanent threats and turns the volume down until it all becomes background noise. It's how we live. But it should tell us something about our fear, something a bit uncomfortable. Our fear is not a great tool. It's not a reliable instrument. It doesn't point at what's most dangerous. It points at what's the loudest in the moment, what's grabbing headlines right now. It turns out there's a name for what I'm describing and a whole field of science behind it. A psychologist named Paul Slovic spent decades studying why human beings fear what we fear. What he found is that our sense of danger runs on two things, and neither one of them has anything to do with the actual odds. The first is dread. How much does this thing feel out of my control? How catastrophic, how vivid or horrifying can I imagine it being? The second is the unknown. How new is this thing? How little do I understand it? How strange is it? Now, if that thing scores high on both of those ratings, your brain will just light up. It'll treat something as absolutely terrifying, no matter how low the risk, even if it has no chance of ever touching you throughout your entire life. The opposite's also true. Score low, if it feels familiar or ordinary, if it kind of makes you feel like you might still be in control, your brain will wave it right through. No matter how many people it actually could or does kill. That's why I was afraid in the plane and why I'm calm in the car. In the car, I'm holding the wheel. I know the road. It feels familiar. I'm in control. The fear stays quiet, even though we all know that driving statistically is where the real danger is. On the plane, I've control nothing. It's loud. It's strange. Dread and unknown, both cranked way up. My fear wasn't broken. It just wasn't thinking about what could actually kill me. Once you know what the brain is actually measuring, you can kind of predict what it'll get wrong. We'll underreact to anything big, slow, and familiar, and we panic at anything new and vivid and hard to understand. Now, let's take a look at where we are right now. I mean, on one hand, what's the latest and greatest fear around? It's definitely AI. It's running through the headlines, primetime news, blogs, podcasts. I mean, just about every viral thread and monologue. AI is going to take over jobs. It's going to destroy the environment. It's the Terminator. It's the God that we'll all be lucky to survive if we can even just survive to be pets, but more likely it's the end of the human story. That's the list the AI doomers pull up for every interview. And now on the other hand, there is another list, the one that we forget. The nuclear weapons I already talked about. They're still there, more proliferation than ever, more dangerous than ever. How about pandemics? I think about every expert on the planet would tell us that there'll be another one, and we got lucky during the last one. I talked about driving before. 1 million people die in car crashes globally every year. 1 million. Just even in the United States, 50,000, just in the US, while we don't even think about it when we get in the car. Look at the difference in how the one hand feels compared to the other, that first list compared to the second list. The first sets off every alarm, the second one barely registers. Even though the second list has real and present dangers on it, larger, closer, far better documented than anything on the first list. Dread and the unknown, the first list scores high on both. The second list has been with us for so long, it's just gone quiet. Our miscalibrated fear can be so off, so wonky, it doesn't just amplify the fringe dangers, it could also hide more immediate and real threats. The AI risks that are actually most concerning right now are almost never the ones making it into the headlines. I'll give you a good example of one. Right now, as of this recording, there's a freely available tool sitting on a public website, usable by just about anyone with a laptop, that can strip away the safety protections of some of the most powerful, openly available AI models in under 10 minutes. The guardrails the companies have built into these models to deter people from using them to build weapons or commit crimes gone sitting at your kitchen table in less time than it might to make a pot of coffee. AI experts from all over the world have called this out. They flagged it. Once these models are released into the world, it's almost impossible, if not impossible, to ever get them back. That's scary. And the chances are you've never even heard about it. And most people haven't. It doesn't trend. It's not vivid. There's no killer robot, no glowing red eyes, nothing to put in a thumbnail image for YouTube. It scores almost nothing on the dread scale and nothing on the unknown because, frankly, it's kind of technical and kind of boring. There's no romance to it. And that's exactly the point. The same broken instrument that makes us panic about the science fiction version of AI makes us shrug at the real, documented, present tense version. We're afraid of the monster on the screen, and we're ignoring the fact that there's no security by the emergency exits. By now, it should be obvious to everyone, AI carries real risks. It does. Through these first 7 episodes of the Human Precipice, I've mentioned this many times. I'll call those risks out all day long. But what I'm telling you is that the tool we use to gauge our fear, the way it's baked into our survival instinct, it often points in the wrong direction, and sometimes screaming when it really should be quiet, and sometimes silent when it really should be screaming. So let's ask a question for a minute that the panic never really gets around to. Of everything on the lists, on the one hand, on the other hand, that doomer list, the one that sets off all the alarms about AI, if you strip away the science fiction for a second, just take a step back. Now look at the other hand and that other list. Nuclear weapons that can only destroy, a warming climate that can only take, the pandemic, the failing food and water systems, antibiotic resistance, all real threats and only threats. They'll never offer us anything but destruction. You look at all of these dangers, AI is the only thing that, for all of its danger, is also a tool. It's the one entry on these lists that cuts both ways. It carries real danger. I just spent 5 minutes telling you about one of them. But it's also the single most powerful problem-solving instrument our species has ever built. And it shows up in exactly the moment that we're drowning in problems we've not been able to solve on our own. Think about what that means. We're pouring our dread and fear into the one thing on the board that might actually help us with all of those old things we've just stopped being afraid of. This is not a hypothetical. While the headlines warned us about a robot uprising, AI mapped the structure of essentially every protein known to science, a problem that had resisted biology for 50 years. The work won a Nobel Prize. It's steering the plasma inside of experimental fusion reactors, holding superheated matter stable in ways human engineers couldn't figure out. It's screening for millions of compounds to find new antibiotics for infections. We're running out of ways to kill. And just weeks ago, it cracked a 80-year-old math problem the best minds in the field had given up on. There's now an AI system that could spot pancreatic cancer on a scan up to 3 years before a doctor can see it. 3 years. If you've ever lost someone to cancer because it was found too late, many of us have, think about what 3 years could have meant just for a second. Someone I care about very much, someone I love, works in cancer research. And not that long ago, he mentioned to me that he was starting to wonder why he even bothers with AI moving the way it is. I understood the feeling, but it's wrong. The scan that finds a tumor 3 years early doesn't make his work meaningless. It makes his work possible. He's not being replaced. He's being handed the most powerful instrument any healer has ever held. The most powerful research tool any scientist has ever been given. This is the thing the fear hides from us. We've been so busy bracing for what AI might take that we've stopped looking at what it might give. I'm not selling anything. I'm not here to tell you AI is our salvation. I spent the first 6 episodes of this channel arguing the opposite of cheap hope and hype. I told you the danger was never the machine. The danger is us. I still believe that. But something has shifted since I started the Human Precipice channel. I've actually grown more hopeful. Not because I suddenly have more faith in humanity. I wish I did. I don't. We're still the same species that turns every new power into a new weapon. I've mentioned in a few episodes that AI is a reflection of what we are, and that reflection in the mirror hasn't changed. But what I think has changed, I don't think any longer that we have to figure out how to evolve, how to change that reflection on our own. I talked about this in the Golem episode. For our entire history, every tool we ever built just sat there waiting for us to use it good or use it badly. The hammer never cared. The printing press never wrote a book. But this tool participates. It thinks alongside us. And if it's truly a mirror, if everything we've ever written, our wisdom and our cruelty both, live inside of it, then somewhere in that reflection is also the oldest thing we've ever longed for. That reaching, that hope of becoming better than we are. The mirror holds all of it, the cruelty and the longing, side by side. Which half gets stronger is not up to the machine. The machine amplifies whatever we keep feeding it. That's the feedback loop I was talking about in the last episode, and it's really the whole game. We pointed at the protein structure and it gives us back cures. We pointed at our outrage, it'll give us back more outrage. It will hand us more of whatever we choose to show it. So the question was never really whether AI can help us or AI wants to help us. The AI doesn't want anything. The question is whether we will choose, or if we can choose, to point it at the better half of the reflection, to have our best selves, our best instincts compound instead of getting ground down by fears of scarcity and all those fears the way they've always been before. This is a choice. And it is our choice. For the first time in the human story, we have a partner powerful enough to make that choice really matter. So no, I don't think we should be afraid of the wrong things anymore. Fear is understandable. Fear of the unknown is perhaps one of the oldest instincts we have, but our best selves were never the ones who stayed home. We're the species that crossed oceans without maps. We looked up at the moon and decided to go. We've dreamed this thing into being centuries ago, even longer. And now it's here, and it's asking us a question that will change the course of humanity. It's not what do we fear it will do to us, but what do we hope it will help us become? I'm Gil Paul. Thanks for joining me on the Human Precipice, and I hope you come back.